watching you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I've done my best to list my favorite features and most irritating quirks that I've had with the Xbox Series X. Starting from the good to the bad, let's get right into it. Of course, we can't talk about the Xbox without mentioning the most important thing this console has going for it, Game Pass. I subscribed to Game Pass for 2 years prepaid and I've not looked back. I have actually not even purchased a single game on the Xbox since I got Game Pass. I think that the idea of having this crazy catalog of games just right at your service available to you at any time is what made me really enjoy this console for the first few months. Like, there was always a new game to play, there was always something to try. That being said, I think the value of Game Pass really depends on the type of gamer that you are. For example, if you enjoy big budget AAA games such as Grand Theft Auto, for example, or you like to play FPS games like Call of Duty, I think you'd be okay to skip it. Though you're still gonna need to pay $9.99 a month for an Xbox Live Gold subscription to be able to play any online games, unless the games are free to play like Warzone and Fortnite, of course. I think that the extra $5 jump from Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass Ultimate is a no-brainer personally, because you get access to literally hundreds and hundreds of games, as well as being able to play them on the computer or the Xbox. You could pick up and play them wherever you want. You could even stream them from your phone using the Xbox Cloud Gaming app. Not to mention that with Game Pass Ultimate, you also get EA Play, which allows you to get other games like EA exclusive titles. Some of the games that I've personally tried on Game Pass were Hades, I played Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, I played Skyrim. All of those available just by downloading them whenever you want on your console for 16 bucks a month. Though personally, I haven't really played anything from the EA Play catalog. It is good to note that that's not the only games that you get. There are some one-off games like Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Skyrim, being a Bethesda title, of course, which is now owned by Microsoft. But you do get good games, and Guardians of the Galaxy is a hidden gem. So if you haven't played that game yet, I would honestly really recommend it. It's one of the few games that I've beat recently, and it really blew me away. So to have all of that for you at 15 bucks a month and include Xbox Live Gold, it's honestly a no-brainer to me, and I feel like everybody that has an Xbox should get Game Pass over paying, $9.99 a month for Xbox Live Gold. I just think the value proposition there is honestly amazing, especially if you're like me and you own a PC. You can just pick up the games, like I said, wherever you want. One big thing that I noticed when I bought the Xbox Series X coming from an Xbox One was just how fast the console feels. It was seriously fast. On the Series S, we were graced by a 500 gigabyte hard drive that sounded like it was dying every time you used the console. And now this year, they finally said, let's go ahead, put an SSD in the thing and let's modernize it, let's make it fast. But in all seriousness, the SSDs in the new consoles are really fast. I've built literally tons of computers, custom PCs that have all used SSDs in them. And I don't think I've ever seen a game load as fast as it does on these new consoles like the Xbox or the PS5. See, my guess would be, obviously they have really fast SSDs in them alongside the tight integration of the software. But that's not really all. See, the Xbox's SSD is only really 5 gigabytes a second when you have compressed files, which honestly isn't too much considering in my PC, my SSD is 7.5 gigabytes. But just how they design the software and how these games run make it really feel like the second you turn the console on, from the second you're playing, is almost non-existent. I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the Series X, and the day that I got it, it just worked. It was so fast. I was not expecting to be in the game within 20 seconds of turning the console on. Now, here's the thing. The Xbox has something that the PS5 doesn't, and it's called Quick Resume. What Quick Resume allows you to do is jump from one game directly to another without taking any sort of time to load this and that and these textures and stuff. It just pops right in and works. Now, personally, I'm not gonna tell you that Quick Resume is the best thing that's ever happened, because honestly, the amount of times that I've experienced Quick Resume in video games is very minimal compared to my experience with the Xbox throughout, this year and a half. I think if you're playing games like Halo and Forza and games made by Xbox Studios, you'd have no problem with Quick Resume and it will just work. But when it comes to games that aren't designed for it, it sometimes messes with the functionality. heavy. For example, Call of Duty will kick you out to the boot menu and have to load up the game servers, and sometimes having quick resume actually slows that whole process down because it has to, like, I guess, reset where the game was or something. I don't know, it's really confusing. That being said though, quick resume doesn't work on every game, and honestly most games that I've played don't even have the feature available. So to me, it doesn't really make much of a difference, but when it does work, it's actually really impressive. Now, it's no doubt that these next generation consoles are truly mind-blowing when it comes to performance. Like I was saying earlier, the game that I experienced for the first time in 4K was Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the Series X. I pre-ordered the game day one, played it, and I was just blown away. Maybe 4K wasn't true because it's not true 4K. See, that's the thing where these consoles get you, but you probably won't notice if you're just a regular consumer. A lot of these times, these games will use upscaling techniques or drop some of the quality of the game in certain performance modes. So if you're playing a game in 4K 60, the image that you're seeing won't look as good and probably come across just a little bit blurrier compared to a title that you're playing at 4K 30, or maybe it's the same game that just gives you the options to switch between them. Now, the reason why this is the case is because they use a form of DLSS, and it's like a resolution upscaling technique that the game is actually rendered at a lower resolution, but through AI upscaling, it kind of falsifies the image in certain areas to make it look like it's running at 4K. That's kind of like the best way that I can explain it. You could probably find a guide online and figure out what DLSS is, but it's pretty crazy technology. But that being said, like, that doesn't take away from the fact that it was almost a native 4K experience, a 4K gaming experience that I paid like 500 Canadian dollars for, and I just sit down on the couch and play it. You know, I don't have to be at my computer, I don't need a 4K monitor, I just have my 4K TV, my Xbox, and I just relax and play games and they look beautiful. What's kind of like mind-blowing about it though is, like, you don't hear any noise. Like, these consoles are whisper quiet. The Series X especially. Let me grab this big boy over here. Look at this thing. This whole top is a fan. So it's just constantly sucking air in while this thing is going, and you don't even hear it. Like, it barely even gets warm to the touch when you're playing it, and it's just crazy to think that we've come that far, because I remember a couple of years ago playing on the PS4 and it sounded like a jet engine was taking off in my living room. So to go from like jet engine at 720p 60 frames per second to a console that's running at pretty much 4K most of the time and you don't hear a single peep, it's actually nuts. And one cool thing to note is, like, if you're a competitive gamer, a lot of games actually do support 120 FPS. Though a lot of those games don't support that frame rate at 4K resolution, you could bump it down to 1440p. You also need a monitor that's capable of doing it. You can find like $300, even cheaper 1440p monitors that do 170 Hertz, and those will be fine because it will just be capped out at 120 anyway, but to have that flexibility with a console is crazy, especially considered you can plug a mouse and keyboard in depending on like the kind of game that you're playing and have pretty much like a PC experience from your living room, your desktop, like wherever you want. They do this over HDMI 2.1, so if you have a TV that's compatible, it's honestly amazing. Like, I pretty much have a no compromise setup. I use an LG C1 OLED with this Xbox Series X, and I'm able to get 120 FPS in games that do it. I'm able to get 4K in games that do it, HDR, Dolby Atmos, like literally everything that you could want in your living room comes out of this little box. It's mind-blowing. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this video so far, a sub to the channel and a like would honestly do wonders. We're still growing, so you know, that extra support will really help out the channel and the video. And if you guys have any comments of what I can do differently, or if you want to see a video on anything, just let me know. Like, I'm open for conversation. I want to talk to you guys, and I'm definitely here to take your criticisms if you have any. Okay. Now, this is kind of why I wanted to make this video. See, with the Xbox, it's not really all sunshine and rainbows. I think some of the cons with this console very heavily outweigh the pros that you get. After all, everything that I just told you about the Xbox Series X is available in the PS5 despite the lack of quick resume. Even Sony is working on a competitor to Game Pass, you know, and to be honest, it kind of does look like it's going to be able to keep up. It's really good to see that there's more competition in that space, and honestly, all competition is good competition, because when you have two companies fighting for you know, that market share, it makes both platforms great. And I think both platforms are really good depending on the kind of person that you are. But I do have some negative things to say about the Xbox, so let's just dive right into that. Now, a game console is only the hardware. The games are what really sell you the console. It's what you're gonna be using the console for, unless you just want a $600 4K DVD player. This is where I feel like the Series X argument starts to kind of go downhill, for me at least. Yes, like you do get Game Pass, which is honestly, as of right now, an unmatched deal in the gaming industry, but you don't get any games. There's no exclusives. Like there's no titles that I get excited for. And Forza, you know, Forza was awesome, but Forza's a racing game. And I don't think that it appeals to most of the people that want to buy an Xbox. And Halo, for example, I kind of feel the same way. Personally, I love first-person shooters, but Halo is a game that I've been playing for years now, and it didn't really feel like they developed on the game at all. It kind of hurts me to say that because I was really excited for Halo. Like I wanted that game to succeed. I played Splitgate non-stop up until the release of Halo, and I just feel as if like we were duped and lied to about a game that could have been something so great that just didn't really pan out. You know, I look at the PlayStation and I think like, you know, Demon's Souls, Horizon Forbidden West, Sackboy, Ratchet and Clank. Like, I'm missing a lot. This is just off the top of my head. I'm missing a lot of games, so don't roast me for only naming those 4. I played pretty much every single PlayStation exclusive that came out for the PS5 because I wanted to get like a really good feel of what a next-gen console should feel like. Every single one of those games, let me tell you, I had a blast playing them. Spider-Man, for example, it was a pretty short game, but it was probably the most fun that I've had playing a game for a really long time. Ratchet and Clank was like a surprise to me because around Black Friday I had picked it up for like 20 bucks and I just thought, okay, 20 bucks, I'll add it to the collection. It probably won't really, you know, be that game for me, but I sat there for 3 days, played it through, and I really enjoyed it. Horizon Forbidden West, I honestly just pre-ordered the game because I thought it would be interesting. I played a little bit of Zero Dawn and I just thought, I don't know, maybe I'll enjoy it, maybe I won't. It's a beautiful game. I wanted to try it out because we just got the OLED and I was like hooked on the game. A game that I didn't care about going into, that I spent like 18, 20 hours playing it within 2 days. Like I haven't had that moment with the Xbox, and honestly, my Xbox hasn't really been on because of that. Now, I'm sorry if that makes some of you sad. Like if you really want the Xbox or you already have one and you feel a different way about it, I'm sorry. Like these are my personal opinions and I don't want to be biased. Like I don't have a bias. I pre-ordered the Xbox before I ended up buying a PlayStation. So I don't have this like mentality of the PlayStation is better and that you should just buy one over the Xbox. But as of right now, if you're buying one of these consoles, if you have, you know, you have this much money, this is how much you want to buy, I feel like it's kind of difficult for me to say don't buy a PlayStation because the value that you get out of the PlayStation is just a little bit more than the Xbox at the moment. And that can change. Like Microsoft has been buying a ton of studios. You know, they've acquired Bethesda, Blizzard, which is like Blizzard, Activision, King, I don't know. But they've been doing their work. You know, they've been just buying companies left and right, which is a good thing, could be a bad thing. But for the console, it desperately needs it. I just feel duped because I guess that when I bought this console, I was expecting to play Halo a few months into the launch of the console, and it came out like a year and a bit later. And I'm glad that they're buying these studios to develop games for Xbox, but the same question comes to my mind is like, when are we even gonna see those? Because these acquisitions just barely happened not too long ago. And I say barely because we don't even know if they're actually buying Blizzard. It hasn't even fully gone through yet. So like, are these games already in the works, or like, are they planning for the next generation of Xbox? Because it just seems like as of right now, there's nothing new. There's no trailers for any games. There's nothing interesting right now. Circling back to my point about the storage though, and about it being fast, that's pretty much where the good things kind of come to an end with that whole argument, because the console only has a terabyte, and I think it's like 800 gigabytes usable. So by the time you install like Warzone and you install Halo, this and that, you have like 4 300 gigs left on it. And if you're somebody that likes to store all of your games and just have everything accessible to you, or let your games update overnight, with all of these like content patches and stuff in these games, and these games just getting larger and larger, it just seems like you don't really have any room to put them. Now, you can upgrade the storage, but this is where it gets really screwy. If you want to put a 1 terabyte Seagate, oh, by the way, proprietary Seagate external SSD into your Xbox, you're looking at $220 US. You can buy like a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD that you can plug into the PlayStation for like 120 US, maybe even cheaper. The value argument there starts to like kind of really get to you, where you're paying $100 for a console, and then maybe next year you have to pay $250 after taxes to upgrade the storage. And like that's just to double it up. Like if you want to take that and you want to put 2 terabytes of SSD storage into your Xbox, you're looking at $399 US. That's like almost double the price of the 1 terabyte drive. I guess kind of makes sense in terms of like capacity, but that's nuts. Like $400 US for an SSD is mind-blowing. Like that's expensive. I have not paid $400 US for an SSD, or for both of my SSDs in my computer. Like that's crazy money. Now, like the benefit of that is because they're pretty much the same SSD that you're gonna get in the console, you do get quick resume and those features still, but you have to ask yourself if quick resume is valuable enough to you to be able to, make yourself spend $220 on a 1 terabyte SSD. I personally have not upgraded this, and I feel like this console makes the most sense to upgrade because you have Game Pass. Like it just seems like such a missed opportunity for Microsoft to like handicap the console in this weird way. I've upgraded the PlayStation because it's accessible. Like realistically, it doesn't cost too much to be able to do it, so I did it. I have more storage there, I have more games downloaded, and because of that, it's kind of just where I play most of my games. Like if I'm gonna buy a AAA game, I'm buying it on the PlayStation because I don't really have that fear in my head of, oh, I might have to delete Call of Duty, or I can't download the new Halo game or something. I don't really have to worry about that on that console. It's no secret that the Xbox ships with pretty much the exact same controller that you've got throughout the last few generations of the Xbox One. Now, fundamentally, it's an amazing controller. Like, I love it, and it's the most comfortable controller that I've used, and I think that's why they kept that design. They've added a USB-C port and a share button so that you can go live and record your games a little bit easier. But I had myself thinking, like, when I was writing this script for this video, was that enough? See, the thing is, on the PlayStation, you have haptic feedback, and you have an integrated battery, and you have all of these features that make it feel like a next generation console. A touchpad so you can type messages quicker, a microphone built in with a mute button that you can use to mute your headset. All of these weird things that, maybe may not seem like a big deal make everything so much more convenient as a gamer. And why Microsoft decided to just not put any research and development into a new controller is kind of baffling to me. Maybe it was to keep costs down on the console. I don't know what it is, but I feel like at that price point, you're kind of just shitting on the people that are buying it, you know what I mean? Now with the whole like rechargeable batteries and stuff like that, I don't mind that Microsoft actually chose to just give you AA's in the box and say, here you go. I actually think giving the buyer an option is a lot better. It's just when it comes to features that could be there that you can't add yourself. Like I can buy a plain charge kit for 20 bucks, pop it in the controller, and then I have ultimately a rechargeable battery. And honestly, for me, that's nice because I've had PlayStation 4 controllers just die and become unusable because the battery just drains and drains over time. They don't hold a charge as much, and it just becomes a pain in the ass. But I feel like it's a premium device. Like I feel like you're paying a premium to get it, and they don't care about that, and maybe the whole sustainability thing is an argument, but it doesn't really seem like Microsoft cares about that, considering they sell a Pro controller, the Elite Series 2, that has a battery inside of it. You can't upgrade that controller, you can't remove the battery, you can't do anything with it. Once it dies, so it's not like Microsoft obviously cares about the sustainability, but I'm not gonna personally let the battery thing change my stance on it. Like I said, I think it's a good thing that you get AA's in the box and that you can just buy a plain charge kit. Honestly, if I were Microsoft, I would just include one, but that would mean that they just don't have another product to sell. So I get it. As a company, you want to make money. That's fine. Now this is probably my biggest gripe that I've had with the console, if I'm gonna be completely honest, because the other things to me, aside from the games, aren't really that big of a deal. But it's the UI, okay? This stupid UI that they've shoveled in throughout the last few years since the launch of the Xbox One, it just makes no sense to me. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Xbox One came with the Kinect when it first launched, and that's the console that I bought. And you can use the Kinect to navigate the menus. You could say Xbox Play TV. They had like this really big focus on television for some weird reason. It was a game console that they tried to turn into like your home DVR or something, and it just made the experience feel like really lousy. It felt like games were secondary toward everything else, and it made navigating the menus really difficult. But they've updated it over time, obviously removed some of those major TV heavy features like the guide and stuff like that, but it just seems like they haven't updated it enough. It's like they took out the TV stuff and they're like, there you go. The whole thing was designed around being like your TV multimedia unit, and it just feels like it's very outdated and very clunky. One thing that they do a good job though is giving you customization, being allowed to change the quick access menu so that you can have like other things as a priority, but just navigating the console is so confusing to me. Like, and it's not just me either. Like my cousin has an Xbox and he says the same thing about it, and he's had an Xbox for quite a long time now. He even had an Xbox One. It doesn't make sense as a user, and I don't know why they continue to do this. It's like Microsoft is a software company. They make software. Granted, like Windows is not the best, but it's what I use, and it works. Like it makes sense in terms of functionality, but this doesn't. It makes absolutely zero sense in terms of functionality. They litter it with things that you don't care about, like advertising to you, like what games are on gold, or you know, you should buy this, or check out this movie from the Microsoft store. It's just like, I don't need that. I'm turning the console on to play a video game. Let me play my video game. One thing that they did change about the UI with the Series X was they allowed you to have wallpapers. You could have a moving wallpaper, but the thing is, the elements that are above the wallpaper, like, you know, your Microsoft store, the game that you're about to play, your party and everything, they block like most of the screen. There's only like top and bottom are the only visible screen real estate really when it comes to like the Xbox home screen. So when you have a live wallpaper, you don't see anything. You don't see any of it. And honestly, it just makes it feel really cluttered when you have everything moving around and you have this big jumble mess in the middle of the screen. It's like there's no continuity, there's no consistency in the design. Every different, you know, element that you jump into feels like a different menu, like the Microsoft store, for example. It's just, I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense. Now, the thing is, it sounds like I'm nitpicking, and honestly, it's because I am. Like, this console is great. Besides the games, besides, you know, the silly things that I mentioned, it's a no-brainer to pick one of these up. But if you want to play like exclusive games and have a console that you really want to enjoy and, you know, spend a ton of time on, if Game Pass isn't something that you care about, for example, I would just turn another head to this. I wouldn't even bother. That being said, like, the value that you get out of one of these is unmatched. If you want to pay a monthly fee with Game Pass, you get EA Play, Xbox games, you know, and other different studios that publish games onto Game Pass. You can go your entire console's life without having to buy a single game. Granted, like, you are renting them, like once you download them, if you stop paying for Game Pass, you no longer have access to them, but you already pay for things like Netflix or other video services. I don't see this as being much different. So if you occupy your time a lot with video games, having something like Game Pass, especially, like I said, being able to access it on the computer or on your phone, it's just an awesome kind of all-in-one system to be able to do everything for you. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and just support the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, have you picked up an Xbox or have you picked up a PlayStation? I'd like to hear what you guys have chose, especially after listening to me rant for like the last few minutes. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.